አዲዮላ አሁን በመካከላችን ትገኛለች። አቶ ድንበሩ ስለሷ አጭር የሆነ ኢንትሮዳክሽን ንግግር ያደርግልናል። እሷንም ደግሞ ወደ መድረኩ ይጋብዝልናል።
Thank you very much. I am pleased to have a chance to introduce our distinguished guest speaker, Ms. Adeola Fayehun. Ms. Fayehun is the host and the producer of Keeping It Real with Adeola, a weekly show on African politics on Sahara TV, as well as foreign correspondent for the Nation newspaper in Nigeria. She has been one of Africa's rising stars in journalism industry in our big African community. She has a great understanding of issues in Africa and promotes human rights, exposes corruptions, and bring to the spotlight various other issues that have been debilitating our continent, Africa. Ms. Adeola Fayehun grew up in Nigeria, where she had her elementary and secondary education. She attended University of Ilorin briefly before moving to the United States. Ms. Adeola received her bachelor's degree in journalism and mass communication from Olivet College in Michigan in 2007. She has also received her master's in broadcast journalism from the City University of New York Graduate School of Journalism in December 2008. We are so happy and delighted that Ms. Adeola accepted our invitation and joined us today. It is great honor, privilege, and joy to me to introduce and invite Ms. Adeola to the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our speaker, Ms. Adeola, with the greatest applause possible.
Salam, salam, salam. You guys have no idea how excited I am to be here today among Ethiopians. Oh my God. Oh my God. First of all, I apologize for the delay in my arrival, but I am so happy and so excited to be here today, and it's wonderful to see so many Ethiopians. I've always, imagined what it would be like to be among Ethiopians, and I can't believe that this dream is coming to pass. So, thank you so much, ESAT, for inviting me. You guys are doing a wonderful job. Can we please give them a round of applause for all that ESAT has been doing? Thank you so much. Thank you. Somehow, ESAT has managed to keep the people of Ethiopia informed about what's going on at home and, among Ethiopians here, despite all the challenges. And that inspires me. The power of information. There's so much you can do when you have access to information, when you're able to know what is going on back home. So they are doing a wonderful job, not just for a few weeks. They've been doing this for 4 good years, 4 years. And that it touches my heart that despite all the challenges, they've been going on for the past 4 years. And thank you so much for making me a part of this anniversary. Thank you. Okay, how many people have seen Keeping It Real with Adeola? Oh, this many people. Oh boy. Okay, first of all, I should let you know that I have my fellow brother in crime with me. You may not see him. I'm talking about Koledowo. How many people know who Koledowo is? If you've heard about Koledowo, that's good that you don't know him. That's good. Because he likes to keep very low profile. So I'm glad that you guys don't know him, so you won't even notice when you see him that that's him. But I like to mind my business. Anybody that knows me knows that, they all know that I don't gossip. I mind my own business. So if you ever wonder how I got to know about a first lady who refused to leave when the time was up, don't blame me, blame Koledowo. Can you hear me when I sound straight, or how about now? Okay, so don't blame me, just blame it on Koledowo. And if you don't know who Koledowo is, you're probably wondering what I'm talking about right now, but maybe when you see the show, you will find out. So anyway, I was minding my own business when I heard about an African first lady who doesn't want to leave the palace, and I was like, heck no. When it's time to leave, you leave, and you let somebody else come in, you know? And I was like, was she planning on staying there for the rest of her life, you know? There has to be a plan B. So I said, I think I need to talk about this issue. I'm not Ethiopian, I'm not from Ethiopia, but I'm like, this is an African country, and I'm an African. I don't care where you're from in Africa. If you're an African, you're my brother, you're my sister. So I talked about it on my show. The show is called Keeping It Real with Adeola, for those who may not know. And then the unimaginable thing happened, something that I never imagined in my life. It's something huge. I don't even know how to describe it, but you know what happened? You guys watched it. And I was like, wait a minute, there are other people watching the show apart from Nigerians? And then I was like, Ethiopians are watching the show? I was like, oh my God, Ethiopians. Like, is this the same Ethiopia that I know of? Like, the great Ethiopia. You guys are big. You may not know how big you are, but you are big. I was like, the same Ethiopia that I read about in the Bible. I'm talking about the oldest African country. The only country that refused to be colonized. That's you guys. I was like, what? Ethiopians are watching? I'm like, this is Ethiopia we are talking about, the second largest population in all of Africa. This is Ethiopia we are talking about that beat Italy. I've never seen any other African country that not only, you didn't only refuse to be colonized, but you actually beat up the colonial master wannabes. So you guys are great. I was like, is this the same Ethiopia that I've been talking about? The fact that Ethiopia refused to be colonized tells me that everything about Ethiopia is original. Everything about you is original. It wasn't, because you were colonized that you're doing something. Your languages, your culture, everything about Ethiopia. The food, thank God for the food. I'm sorry, I love Ethiopian. A lot of healthy recipe, by the way. And the fact that you guys eat in one big, platter, I like that. Not only does it foster communication between, amongst the people that are eating, but I think it helps you to make sure that nobody else eats more than you do, because you're constantly monitoring what everybody else is eating. You're like, no, you've had enough, you've had enough. So I think it's a great idea that everybody is eating in the same bowl. So, and not only that, you are the Horn of Africa. There is no other African country that they refer to as the Horn of Africa. Now, Africa is like a ram, and the strength of the ram mainly depends on how strong its horn is. That's to tell you. And you are the horn. You are the horn. So however strong Ethiopia is tells you how strong Africa is. I'm just saying all these things just so that you guys know the way we see you. I don't know how you see yourself now, but this is the Ethiopia that I know. This is the Ethiopia that my dad talked to me about, the great Ethiopia. I think about the great Emperor Selassie. I think about so many great things about Ethiopia, especially the coffee. I don't drink coffee, but I'm a strong believer in Ethiopian coffee. There is nothing like Ethiopian coffee. Ethiopia is rich, not just in culture, but in beauty. The people of Ethiopia are beautiful. They are women. Please give it up for your women. Yes. with them long hair. You know, I'm trying to grow my hair, but I've not been, you know, has success. I know, I see your hair, you don't have to bang it. Like, she was like, yeah, we have long hair. Yeah, everybody knows, you know, Ethiopian women, they have long, healthy hair, and they are all very beautiful. So, when I found out that Ethiopians were watching the show after I did the story of the First Lady, I wanted to follow up more on Ethiopian news. I started following Ethiopian news. And it's an experience that opened my eyes to the other side of Ethiopia. I've known so many great things about Ethiopia, but when I started following the news, so many things were breaking my heart. And the more I read Ethiopian news, the more I ask myself, how did we get here? Like, so what happened? You know, I keep asking myself, what happened? This is the great country that not only refused foreigners from colonizing them, but they actually beat them up. And I'm like, so why are we now where we are? And if you're wondering what I'm talking about in terms of where we are, I read about how Ethiopians were being maltreated in Saudi Arabia and how thousands of them actually were deported. I read about how some Saudi Arabians would rape Ethiopian women. I watched this video of an Ethiopian woman crying as she was talking about her experience in Saudi Arabia. And I keep asking myself, so what happened? This is the same Ethiopia, the great Ethiopia. What happened? When I was following the news, I read about how some women were protesting a few weeks ago while they were, you know, running, and they were arrested. And I was like, what? What is going on? And then just last Sunday, I heard about how 6 bloggers were jailed and 3 journalists. I've been reading a lot about how journalists have been jailed in Ethiopia. There's this female journalist who has breast cancer, and she's still in prison. And I'm like, how is that possible? And another male journalist who has kidney problems. And I'm like, but this is the same great Ethiopia that I read about, that my father told me about. The female journalist I was talking about is Riyot Alemu. I'm sure many of you have heard about her, as well as Eskinda Nega, who has kidney problems. And then I'm like, so what happened between the time of the Emperor Haile Selassie and now? What happened between the time that Ethiopians fought against colonial master wannabes and now? What happened between that time and now? And I realized that dictators have successfully used a mechanism which I call fear, instilling fear in the minds of the people. They've used that to actually make people think that they don't have the power to reclaim what is theirs. When I see you, I see Ethiopia. When I see you, I see Ethiopia. I don't see just one person, because I believe so much in the power of one. Never underestimate the power of one. Talk less about the power of a group of people who desire change, who desire great things for their country. I'm not here to talk about this government is good, this government is bad. I'm here to talk about what happened, that we no longer have the right to basic human, good human treatment, for lack of better word. The right to freedom of speech, the right to blog about whatever you want, the right to information. What happened that people can no longer protest? Because this week, I heard about protesters in Ethiopia that were shot, more than 30 people. And I'm asking myself, this was not the case. This was with Ethiopia. This is not the Ethiopia that I read so much about. So I'm here today, you know, just to remind you of how great you are. I didn't say how great you were. I mean how great you still are. Because once you have it in you, you have it. Once you were able to defeat colonial master wannabes, you can defeat anything. Yeah. I don't think that Ethiopia was just great. I think Ethiopia is still great. If we do what we should do, I think Ethiopia is still great. It's a beautiful country. I've heard so much about Ethiopia. I've never been, but I've heard so much about how beautiful it is, how close Ethiopians are, the families, all the festivals that you celebrate, how wonderful it is, you know, when you gather and just have a great time in Ethiopia. That's what I advocate when I talk about the stories of Ethiopia. I just want people to have access to basic amenities. I want people to have access to fundamental human rights. That's all that I advocate when I talk about Ethiopia. There shouldn't be any reason for anybody to be arrested just because they are telling their minds, just because they express their opinions. I don't think that people should be afraid to blog. I don't think that journalists should be afraid to do their job. I'm a journalist, and I can imagine what some of my colleagues in Ethiopia are going through just because they are doing their job. So I'm here today to remind you of how great you've been in the past and how great you need to be right now. It doesn't matter which government you support, which administration you support, but you have to be able to fight for good cause, for people to have basic, fundamental human rights, for human lives to be treated as precious, because it is. How do you defend an administration that will open fire on protesters? How do you defend that? How do you explain that? If human life is no longer seen as important, if it's no longer seen as precious, then what is precious? Is it position, being in power? What is precious if human life is no longer precious? So I want to remind you that you have an assignment, first of all, of supporting each other. There are so many Ethiopians here in the diaspora, and so many of you are successful. Ethiopian businesses, restaurants, a lot of successful businesses here in the diaspora. I know about so many Ethiopians that run like, you know that Ethiopia is the country of most of the fastest runners in the whole world? Isn't that true? I mean, great athletes. I'm talking about people like Kenenisa Bekele. I'm sorry if I didn't say these names right. I'm talking about Tirunesh Dibaba. Forgive me for how I pronounce these names. Deratu Tulu, Fatuma Roba. That's just to name a few. They recently concluded the Boston Marathon. Who won? You guys won. I've never heard of Nigerians winning the Boston Marathon. I'm training, you know, I'm trying to see maybe I can represent Nigeria someday. But you guys are known to be one of the fastest countries. I don't know how you do it. When Ethiopians start to run, it's like a machine is turned on. They keep going. You guys are blessed. You are so blessed. And I just want to remind you that being the horn of Africa, a ram is only as strong as its horn. And you are the horn. You are the horn of Africa. I'm not saying this just for you. If Ethiopia is great, it would trickle down. It's like a ripple effect. It would affect me as a Nigerian. So this is not just about you. It's about you, your children, your grandchildren, and also about those of us that are not from Ethiopia, but we love Ethiopia. So, it's time for Ethiopia to take its rightful place as the horn of Africa. You are a great people, and you cannot afford to be anything less. than great. You have to support good cause to see through freedom. Isn't Ethiopia a democratic country? Is it? On paper, at least. So, you don't have to be like America. You don't have to be, just be the best Ethiopia that you can be. There's a new generation of Ethiopians growing up now that have fear in them. The fear of challenging authority, the fear of speaking their mind, and this should not be. A true leader doesn't mind being challenged. You're only afraid of being challenged when you have something to hide, when you know that your hands are not clean. That's why you will be afraid of challenge. And that's why I like to commend once again what ESAT has been doing, broadcasting not just here but also in Ethiopia. And I read so much about how the government of Ethiopia is trying to prevent this information, how much money they are spending on preventing this. But to me, it's making ESAT stronger because they keep looking for how to beat the system. And they've not only beat the system for a few weeks, they've actually been beating the system for 4 good years. 4 years. That's great. That's great that they've been beating the system for 4 good years. So you're here today, it's a fundraising, it's to support this good cause that ESAT has been doing. And I hope that you won't just come and have a great time, but actually help to promote what ESAT has been doing. Donate if you can. Be a donor, not just a one-time donor. But, I mean, if you guys don't do it, who will do it? But it has to come from what you want to see Ethiopia become. That is what will give you the spirit that you need to do what you should do. Please, be good donors. Be able, don't just be one-time donor, but subscribe. And also, yes, subscribe. I don't know if everybody here has subscribed to ESAT, but please, I'm begging you, make sure you subscribe. And I hear a lot of Nigerians, they tell me that they're very successful here, but they want to go back home because, you know, home is where your heart is. I want to go back home too someday. Home is where your heart is. There's nothing like home. You have the extended family around, you know. You don't even have to have a babysitter when you're home. You could just have your neighbor look over. Is that the same in Ethiopia as well? Oh, wow, great. Yeah. Yes, back home there's nothing like babysitters or whatever. You know, so home is where the heart is. But the only way we can all go back home, if we want to go back home, is to support a good cause that is making sure that home is safe. Yeah. So I can't wait to hear about how Ethiopia has changed. I can't wait to hear about how there is freedom in Ethiopia. I can't wait to visit Ethiopia someday, but I'm afraid that if I go right now, yeah, we'll talk about that later. But can I go, really, right now? You will not advise for me to go right now? Will I be considered a terrorist? A terrorist? Wow, a terrorist, that's like really, really mean. I don't even look mean. Like, I don't see any reason why anyone would think that I could be a terrorist. But I can't wait to go to Ethiopia someday, and I'm hoping that everything that we do here today, in one way or the other, it would affect somebody's life, not just here, but also in Ethiopia. And lastly, I want to remind you that Emperor Haile Selassie presided over the golden days of Ethiopia. And I believe that one of you in this hall today, somebody watching me right now, you know, that you can make it happen again. You may be the next Haile Selassie that we're waiting for. So keep that in mind. So, as you all know, if you've been watching the show, I really don't know anything. I don't know much at all. The only thing that I do is just to keep it real. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Adeola. It's really wonderful to have you here. We are so happy that you made it today. And everybody, as you can see, very happy with your presentation. And we know that you're going to continue for many years to come to work with us promoting human rights in Ethiopia, in Africa. In general, of course, we are here today to remember the 4th year anniversary of ESAT and also to raise funds for ESAT, as you have eloquently spoken about being a permanent and continued member of ESAT is very important. Without you guys, ESAT would not be here today. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming and contributing your share. Again, for those of you who did not complete the form, please make sure that you complete the form and also purchase as many tickets as you can so that ESAT can run for the years to come. Thank you very much.